America is unraveling at the seams, and not just in Washington. While political chaos dominates headlines, a deeper crisis is quietly forcing millions of Americans to make the hardest decision of all: leave the place they once called home. In some U.S. states, basic necessities like housing, healthcare, and job security are no longer a guarantee, they're a luxury. From skyrocketing costs to crumbling infrastructure, from rampant homelessness to stagnant wages, the American dream is turning into a nightmare. But here's the most shocking part: experts now warn that up to 60% of the population in some states could vanish by 2025. That's not just an exodus, that's a collapse. So ask yourself, is your state on this list? And if it is, why are you still there? Let's count down the 10 U.S. states Americans should leave immediately before it's too late. Number 10. Hawaii. The paradise that's becoming a prison. At first glance, Hawaii looks like paradise, but behind the palm trees and postcard beaches lies a brutal economic reality. The cost of living in Hawaii is now 80% higher than the U.S. average, making it the most expensive state in the nation. Groceries alone can cost 70% more than on the mainland, and it's not just tourists feeling the pinch, it's the locals who are being priced out of their own homes. Wages haven't kept up. In fact, average incomes in Hawaii are roughly 10% lower than on the mainland, meaning most residents are spending a disproportionate share of their earnings on rent, food, and fuel. And with remote work surging post-pandemic, many residents are fleeing to the mainland, where their dollar stretches much further. The numbers tell a grim story. In 2023 alone, Hawaii lost over 7,000 residents, with that trend accelerating in 2024. By 2025, experts predict up to 29% of the population could disappear from the islands. That's not migration, that's evacuation. Why stay in paradise when you can't afford to live in it? High living costs, few high-paying job opportunities, and crushing isolation are making Hawaii one of the most unsustainable states in America. And for many, the only escape is off the island. Number 9. Oregon, where progressive dreams turned into a nightmare. Once hailed as a liberal haven for artists, activists, and entrepreneurs, Oregon is now making headlines for all the wrong reasons. In cities like Portland, housing prices have exploded, rising over 50% in the past 5 years, far outpacing wage growth. Even modest homes are out of reach for most families, especially younger generations trying to establish roots. And it gets worse. Oregon's notorious high state income tax and mounting local levies are draining household budgets, but residents aren't seeing returns on those taxes. Instead, they're witnessing a full-blown homelessness crisis, with tent cities expanding and violent crime rates ticking upward, especially in urban areas. The result? Oregon is bleeding people. According to recent estimates, the state could lose up to 29% of its population by 2025. Once a magnet for dreamers, Oregon is now a cautionary tale, proof that good intentions don't always lead to good outcomes. Is this the price of progressive decay? With rising crime, economic imbalance, and social unrest, more Oregonians are deciding that their future lies elsewhere. Number 8. California. The Golden State is tarnished. For decades, California was the land of opportunity, a place where you could reinvent yourself. But today, it's the land people are desperate to leave. The median home price is now over $800, nearly double the national average. And renters? They're spending more than 50% of their income just to stay housed. Then there's the tax burden. California boasts the highest state income tax rate in the country, 13.3% at the top tier. Add in sales taxes, gas taxes, and hidden fees, and you're watching your paycheck vanish before it hits your bank account. And the result is undeniable: a mass exodus. Over 500 people left the state between 2021 and 2023, with an additional 1 million expected to flee by 2025. California is projected to lose up to 33% of its population as families and businesses pack up for Texas, Arizona, or anywhere else with lower costs and less red tape. Why are Americans still going there? California's cultural glow is fading fast. If you're not rich or already established, the state feels less like a land of dreams and more like a trap. Number 7. New York. The Empire State is crumbling from within. New York once symbolized ambition, energy, and wealth, but now it's become a warning sign. In New York City, the average rent for a one-bedroom apartment just hit $200 per month. Groceries? Up 30% in the last 24 months. Public transit? Unreliable and increasingly dangerous. And while the population decline might seem small on paper, around 3% by 2025, that number hides a much deeper shift. The people leaving aren't tourists, they're middle-class families and professionals who no longer see a future in the state. They're moving to Florida, the Carolinas, or even the Midwest for better cost of living and safer communities. The state's leadership has done little to stop the bleeding. Instead, they've doubled down on high taxes, increased regulation, and expanded spending without delivering real value. Meanwhile, remote work has allowed high earners to leave without giving up their jobs, and many have. Is New York becoming a city only for the rich and the desperate? Unless radical changes are made, the trend will only accelerate and the Empire State could soon collapse under its own weight. Number 6. Alabama. The southern state that's losing its future. Alabama may have low housing costs, but don't let that fool you. The state is grappling with a stagnant economy, underfunded public services, and some of the worst healthcare outcomes in the country. Its education system consistently ranks near the bottom nationwide, and job growth has been virtually flat for 5 years. Young people are voting with their feet. Recent reports show that Alabama is on track to lose 35% of its population by 2025, with most of that outmigration coming from its educated youth. And once they leave, they don't come back. The healthcare system is particularly grim. Several rural hospitals have closed, and many residents are forced to drive over an hour just to see a specialist. Combine that with poor wages, aging infrastructure, and political stagnation, and the exodus makes perfect sense. Is Alabama becoming a state without a future? When both opportunity and quality of life are in freefall, it's no wonder that thousands are choosing to leave it all behind. Number 5. New Mexico. The land of enchantment and economic despair. New Mexico boasts stunning landscapes and rich cultural heritage, but for many residents, those are the only positives left. The state's median household income is roughly 20% lower than the national average, and the unemployment rate remains stubbornly high, among the worst in the country. Economic development? Stalled. Many areas still rely on outdated industries or government subsidies, and tech or healthcare hubs have failed to take root. Young professionals often find no path forward, forcing them to seek opportunity out of state. By 2025, experts predict a population decline of 37%, with rural areas turning into virtual ghost towns. Education struggles, infrastructure is deteriorating, and violent crime, especially in Albuquerque, is skyrocketing. Why leave? The better question might be, why stay? When an entire state is economically paralyzed, even beauty and history can't keep people around. Number 4. Alaska. America's coldest crisis. Alaska is breathtaking, but it's also brutal. The weather alone poses serious challenges, with temperatures dropping to 40°F in winter and long periods of darkness that affect mental health. Combine that with geographic isolation and crushing transportation costs, and it's no wonder more people are fleeing the last frontier. Alaska's economy is overly reliant on oil and natural resource extraction industries that are volatile and shrinking, and when those revenues dip, so do basic services. Healthcare access is limited, housing is expensive due to import costs, and the job market is dangerously narrow. Forecasts predict a 39% population loss by 2025 as residents seek warmth, jobs, and affordability elsewhere. Even lifelong Alaskans are throwing in the towel. Is this America's forgotten state? For many, the answer is yes, and unless dramatic change happens fast, Alaska's best days may already be behind it. Number 3. Louisiana. drowning in disaster and poverty. Louisiana is literally sinking into the sea, and not just figuratively. Coastal erosion, rising sea levels, and intensifying hurricanes have decimated communities and left tens of thousands displaced. Add in aging levees and inadequate emergency response systems, and the environmental crisis becomes existential. But that's just the start. Louisiana also faces one of the lowest median incomes in America, along with a high poverty rate and crumbling infrastructure. Education, healthcare, and housing all rank near the bottom nationally. The result? A projected population loss of 44% by 2025. Cities like New Orleans and Baton Rouge are hemorrhaging residents, especially younger people, with the means to leave. Why stay in a state where the future is literally underwater? For many, Louisiana no longer feels like home, it feels like a warning. Number 2, Mississippi. America's poorest state is in freefall. Mississippi has long ranked dead last in nearly every national metric: poverty, education, healthcare, infrastructure. But now, the state is entering full-blown collapse. Over 19% of the population lives in poverty, and average wages are far below the national average. Public services are failing, schools are underfunded, hospitals are closing, and economic investment is nearly non-existent. The state's outdated economy cannot keep young talent, and the cycle of poverty deepens year after year. Estimates show Mississippi could lose over half its population, 51%, by 2025. That's not a typo. It's a demographic disaster with no clear solution. Why aren't more Americans talking about this? Mississippi is being left behind, and the silence is deafening. But what comes next will shock you. Number 1. West Virginia. The ghost state of America. Topping our list is West Virginia, once the heart of America's coal country, now a symbol of economic abandonment. The collapse of the coal industry wiped out thousands of jobs, and the state failed to diversify. Today, West Virginia suffers from the lowest labor force participation rate in the nation and a healthcare system on life support. Forecasts are terrifying: a 60% drop in population by 2025. Entire counties are hollowing out, and once thriving towns are turning into ghost towns. Opioid addiction, poverty, and aging infrastructure have made recovery feel impossible. Public investment? Practically non-existent. Schools are shutting down, businesses are leaving, and young people have all but disappeared. Even government officials privately admit the situation is unsustainable. Is this America's first failed state? If nothing changes, West Virginia might become a case study in national neglect and a sign of what's coming for other struggling states. These 10 states aren't just struggling, they're spiraling. From housing and healthcare to jobs and basic infrastructure, the cracks are now gaping holes. And if the forecasts are even half right, millions more will be forced to flee by 2025. So here's the question: are you prepared to stay in a state on the brink of collapse? Or is it time to make a change before it's too late? Drop a comment below if your state made the list or if you just made the move. And don't forget to subscribe for more hard-hitting, data-driven breakdowns of what's really happening in America. Because this isn't just a travel trend, it's a survival decision.